Wednesday night to join our weekly Zoom and meet the candidates. Um, Before we get into that, I'll begin to introduce myself. I'm Terry Deegan. I am the Central Section candidate for the FABGC party. And I'm excited to be here and excited to host this call tonight. I'm going to kind of be the MC in the beginning. What we're going to do is we're going to have the candidates quickly introduce themselves. I will then ask some questions. But before we get into that, what I'd really like to do is thank a lot of the people out there that have donated towards our campaign. And I guess apologize at the same time for having to look at my face in the paper every week. It's one of these things that's actually kind of funny. We go through it, we're very thrilled that people donate. And as we get into the ad campaign, I look at it and I just kind of laugh myself. And again, I apologize. I think it's kind of funny. So as I said, what we're going to do is we're going to go through quick intros of the candidates. I will ask questions, and then we'll turn the program over to John, and John will field the questions. With that, what I'd like to do is turn it over to Cosmo. You can be the first to introduce yourself, and then we'll go through Tom, then Mary, and then into Bruce.
Well, thank you, Terry. Good evening, everyone. My name is Cosmo Veneziali, and I've been nominated for a Better Garden City to be your next mayor. I became a member of FABGC because I believe we need a change in the way our village is governed. FABGC is a community organization seeking greater transparency in our Board of Trustees, adherence to open meeting laws, involving resident participation as members of special committees, and to pursue competitive bidding for all village projects and professional services. I've lived in Garden City for 28 years, my wife Colette, my daughter, and my son. I've served on various village ad hoc committees, was awarded Citizen of the Year as part of a group of distinguished residents, and saved millions of taxpayer dollars in school construction costs, and I've been a member of the Architectural Design Review Board since 2012. I've coached GCAA baseball and Centennial soccer, intramural and travel for boys and girls. I recently volunteered my professional services to give my WPOA committee members a voice in restoring the Edgemere Firehouse, an architectural icon in the western section of our village. Over the last 10 years, the Board of Trustees has made decisions not in the best interest of our residents, such as the selling of public land only to repurchase it at greater cost, engaging in a lawsuit regarding handicap parking, a federal law, construction of monster electric transmission poles lighting a once beautiful section of town, and the decision to demolish the Edgemere Firehouse without resident involvement, with no master plan, and no competitive bidding of professional services. These are just a few of the bad decisions the board has made, and there are others. The firehouse was the last straw for me and was the impetus to do something better for our residents. So I became a member of FABGC as part of a coalition of distinguished citizens seeking to include residents in our governmental decision-making process as members of special committees and to vote on the critical issues confronting our village. We seek your support, and I thank you for joining us this evening.
Excellent. We'll turn it over to Tom now.
Hey, hello everybody. I'm Tom O'Brien, and a quick background on myself. I grew up in Garden City, lifelong resident. I'm married to Donna Murphy O'Brien, who's also grew up in Garden City. 2 children and went through the school system, and I'm very proud to be represented and representing, us for the trustee for the East. Just a little background on me. I have a lot of management and leadership experience, and I've worked with on a lot of not-for-profit boards, serving on different committees such as the audit committees, finance committee, and budget committee. I'm also on the advisory board for the Hofstra University's Zarb School of Business. And so I bring a lot of management and experience to the table for the position. And I look forward to serving the town as a trustee in the East. And I'm very proud to be running with Cosmo, Bruce, and Mary.
What about me?
Oh, Terry. Terry, it goes without saying. Sorry about that. I've known Terry almost my whole life.
Mary, we'll turn it over to you.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. I'm Mary Carter Flanagan, and I'm the FABGC candidate for trustee from the Western section. I came to FABGC for many of the reasons articulated by Cosmo. I have lived in Garden City my whole life. I'm passionate about Garden City. I think it's a wonderful town. I also love our community agreement and the fact that we've operated under that for so long without a political, sort of an apolitical town. But the recent events have led me to get involved, and I think this is what Garden City needs right now. We need a return to transparency and community engagement. And that's what we're here to bring back to Garden City. And thank you for joining us.
Excellent. Now we'll turn over to Bruce.
Good evening, everyone.
Oh, we lost Bruce.
I'm sorry.
We lost your voice there for a sec.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, good. Sorry. I'm Bruce Chester. I'm the FABGC for a Better Garden City Estates candidate. I've lived in Garden City for over 22, 23 years. My wife and I raised our 4 kids here. They went through the Garden City school system, the excellent system. And my involvement, particularly how I got involved with FABGC, is like a number of the people here. It's all the issues that have taken place in the town. Mine in particular was the huge monster polls that you've heard about. And I was am a founding member of REVAMP, Resident Voters Against the Monster Polls. Some of the gentlemen are involved in FABGC. And with that, we pursued the board to try to take some litigation. And that's why we feel they finally decided to do so, as you may have read in Newsday. We wish they would have done that back in June, but that didn't happen. So that's how I got involved. And then when I heard about FABGC and I talked to friends about what happened with the casino and then the firehouse, as Mary said, it was almost like the last straw, that firehouse that looks like a castle that they want to tear down and rebuild, a $10 million firehouse. I'm an insurance professional with 46 years of experience in that field. I ran my own business for about 30 years, and I insured numerous municipalities, fire departments, water districts, garbage districts, so forth. Wrote some insurance for the village of Mineola, our next door neighbor. I feel, having had to analyze their financial statements, I can bring that experience to the board if we're all fortunate enough to be elected. So thank you very much for tuning in to us. And I guess I will turn it over to Terry.
Perfect. All right, now we're going to go back to our mayoral candidate, Cosmo. And Cosmo, I do have a question for you. We got 3 questions for you, actually. First one I'm going to say is, what is your skill set that you bring that's going to make you a better mayor of Garden City?
Thank you, Terry. As an architect, we're involved in multiple disciplines, which include legal, financial, and construction logistics. We deal with zoning and building code issues, infrastructure such as structural, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing engineering design, and of course, construction budgets. We also integrate all these disciplines to form a complete project. So I would transfer my professional skills of analysis and project coordination to address the different departments serving the village. There's been no mayor, I think, in history of Garden City that has my design and development experience that I know of.
Okay. Another question which I think is very topical as we enter these different capital projects. What experience do you have that help us address the large capital projects expenditures that are expected to hit the village?
That's a good question. I've been involved with hundreds of millions of dollars worth of construction over the course of my career, which spans over 30 years. Currently, I'm the architect responsible to oversee a $55 million project, which is almost equal to Garden City's annual budget. That's just one project, one building that we're working on. In addition, we prepare RFPs. We work with lenders in securing construction loans for our clients. I've also made presentations to banks. We're involved in giving community grant loans and construction loans. So again, I know something about how projects are financed, and my experience will certainly be an asset, I think.
Now, here's a good one for you. I think everyone's going to like it. As we are elected, all five of us, and you're the mayor, how would you attack your first days in office?
Well, I've been giving this some thought. Again, my first meetings will be with the village administrator, village clerk, and the village treasurer to discuss any issues in performing their jobs. Then I will conduct meetings with each department and the village administrator to discuss issues in the day-to-day operation of the various departments. I would also schedule the department meetings over a 2-week period so I can understand the needs and issues of each department. Thereafter, I would meet with village council and the board of trustee members to review policy and address the issues that will most impact the residents, such as St. Paul's. We have the Monster Pole litigation going on. We have the casino, the Edgemere Firehouse. We have the Cathedral Nursery School. We talked about the Andy Foundation and the Jay Gallagher tournament, as well as environmental issues that we're facing right now, such as the water issue and also noise pollution. These are all the things I would attack immediately. I would establish special resident committees to address the aforementioned issues as we discussed in our platform.
I'd say all three excellent answers.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Tom, I'm going to go to you next. As somebody who's worked with Fortune 500 companies as a consultant, how do you think that's going to help us, again, as a platform, deal with the village administrator and the various sub-departments, i.e. the recreation, police, fire department, finance, and the like?
Okay, thanks, Terry. Well, basically, I think my background lends itself really nicely to be successful as a trustee. So I've had a very long career as a global business development executive, and as you mentioned, working with Fortune 500 companies around the globe, around the world. So I've been in the consulting professional services industry for over 30 years. Right now, I'm the managing director for a large leading global data analytics firm. But what I've been doing is providing consulting services through technology and both technology and management consulting services. Everything we've done is for process improvement, efficiency, and for growth for companies and their shareholder value. So we come up with solutions, and then we drive those solutions by executing on what we produce. So as far as my management and handling departments, I had over 300 people reporting to me in various departments. So I was in charge of sales, operations, marketing, recruiting, etc. So I'm good at delegating, and I ran my own P&L. So it was like running your own company for a very large organization. And so I bring that experience to the table, as a trustee, and I can leverage my background and the years that I've been doing it. So I think that in that being said, I also believe in delegating. So I think that I'm sure we have a lot of strong people in the different departments, and I would make sure that I'm delegating, and part of management is letting them do their job. And then if they have issues or that need to be brought up to me, I'd like to know that they would do that. So good communication back and forth. But I want to let them do their job at the same time. So I think
you also have tremendous board experience as well.
Yes. So the board experience is important because I've sat on budget, finance, and audit committees. So I have that experience as well. So I can lend that as a trustee. I also, as Cosmo, I have a tremendous amount of experience in RFPs. So I know them inside out. I know how to handle them. I know how to get them out. I know how to respond to them.
Excellent. Well, Mary, now we're going to turn to you. You're kind of unique in our group. You bring an experience not only as a judge, but as an attorney. And I think I'd like to ask you, how is that going to help us as we move in on day one as well?
Right. As a lawyer who practiced for many years, I think I do bring valuable experience, and more recently as a judge that will help make taking on the job of a trustee easier. As a lawyer, have developed valuable skills really that have prepared me for this position. lawyers have an ability to look at issues from different sides. That's a critical point of practicing law, and I think it's also critical to the job of a trustee. We're also trained to think and argue with attention to detail and nuance, see ambiguity where others may not. And I think these skills and my litigation experience will help me in performing as a trustee. More importantly, as a judge during the last 9 years, my job has required me to really be expert at hearing arguments from competing sides. And this is something that I think is a big job, part of the trustee position. And importantly, I've been successful in learning to expeditiously draw out the most relevant information, analyze arguments from competing sides, and come to the very best decision I can based on that record. And I think those skills will translate into allowing me as a trustee to hear input, analyze people's arguments, and help make the best decisions we can for the village.
Excellent. And before I hit Bruce to have him elaborate a little bit, what I'd like to do is to announce, we've got 2 ways to ask a question. One is to raise your hand. The other way is to go through the chat box. The one thing we're going to add tonight, though, is by asking a question, we're going to ask that you introduce yourself, as well as the section of town that you are from. So we can send, if you want to send the questions to the chat, John Cantwell will organize them and ask them. If you want to raise your hand, he will acknowledge you and then forward the question as well. Bruce, we're going to go back to you quickly on your insurance experience. Can you cite anything you've done with any of these different villages or anything like that, as far as would be able to kind of help us as a board moving forward in the insurance capacity?
Yes, I mean, I've represented, as I said, I've insured fire department, water district, garbage district, as well as written some insurance for the village of Mineola. First thing initially I did was to save the money. I reviewed their insurance, I reviewed their coverages, made some recommendations on coverages. One of the things with municipalities that is so important is professional liability, employment practices liability, errors and omissions. And that's something that you need to look at what their financial situations are, and in terms of recommending the insurance and getting proposals for that insurance. So we've always been there when they've had major claims, and some of them have had major claims. And I feel that we've never let them down, whether it be the fire department when you're dealing with volunteer firemen and the issues that they can have, water district with water main breaks and cars going over them and damaging them, and as well as in the village of Mineola, which again was firemen. And that's basically what that I've done. You review the various risks and see what they need. And as I said, when I initially reviewed these accounts, they were lacking in some areas of insurance. And I feel getting on the board, I would lend that expertise to the village. I certainly have no intentions of writing any of the in village insurance, but I certainly want to be very much involved in reviewing their insurance and making recommendations. I mean, I've been in the business for 46 years, as I said earlier, and I was honored by the Tri-County Independent Agents as Insurance Person of the Year, by the Downstate Insurance Council as Executive of the Year. I ran the Tri-County Independent Agents organization for a couple of years. Exists of 500 independent agents throughout Brooklyn, Queens, and Nassau. So I feel I know my business pretty well, and I think I can certainly lend this experience to the village.
Well, that's great. John, at this point, how are we doing on questions? Are they stacking up at all?
Yep, I've got one for you. Well, specifically for Cosmo, from Peter Tomeo in the Estates. How would you approach the POAs who are viewing you as an anti-community agreement candidate?
First of all, we're not anti the community agreement at all. I mean, we're following the actual format and the framework of the community agreement. We have representatives from each section, and we're going against the mayoral position. So I don't see any conflict at all. I think what we want to do as a group is just really discuss these issues and see if we can get the best people in Garden City to intervene and get us the best results for the residents. That's the goal here.
Peter directed that at Cosmo, but I know a lot of you have opinions on the community agreement. Did anybody else want to address it?
I think we've
Sure,
all.
I'll hop in.
Oh, you got it.
Mary, you can go first.
We did put an article in the Garden City News because of our commitment to the community agreement, and we really wanted to reassure people in town that we are not against the community agreement. We're up against the candidates we're running against, call themselves the community party agreement. So I don't want to be there to be any misunderstanding that we are any less supportive of the community agreement than they are. As far as the unique form of government, we really value it, and that's why we're all here, to return transparency and community engagement to it and to preserve it. So I would argue that we're here to save the community agreement and that we're not against it. Terry?
I would say the same thing. We're not against the community party agreement at all. We are here to address what we feel have been bad decisions. One of the things that has been said to me, wouldn't it be great if you could be elected by 1,500 people as opposed to 22 people? I think that would be a strong statement.
Sure.
That may not be a popular thing to say, but that's something that has been said to me, and I tend to agree with it.
I think if I can chime in, it's very well said, Terry, by you and Mary. And I think our community agreement is what makes our village so unique and terrific, and I totally support it. And I think we have to bring back good transparency and the government that we were used to, as far as what we used to see and what used to be followed as far as the community agreement. So with that said, I'm looking forward to stepping in the role and make sure that happens.
I concur. Obviously, I am, certainly not against the community agreement. Want to go forward with it. That was kind of a point I wanted to make at last night's Estates Property Owners meeting, of which I'm a member of the Estates Property Owners Association, that despite what the Community Development Party has been saying, that the Community Agreement Party has been saying, is that we are, well, we're not. We're just looking for some transparency, more involvement. The POAs have certainly had a handle on the candidates and the elections going forward. And I think with all these issues that have been developed in the town, there was an absolute need for a FABGC to run. Having 200 and 300 people voting in an election is really not a way to run a town. I think a lot of people are a lot more involved. There's a lot of questions. A lot of people were not aware of the whole procedure, the structure of the village and how it went with the POAs. Well, now they're seeing it. We're bringing it to their attention. So I think we're going to see a lot more people that are voting. And I can't see anything but good things happening for the village by having this happen. So anyway, I'm supporting the agreement.
And Effie had a live question.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Effie.
Hello, Effie.
So
Hey.
I have it's two issues, but they both are surrounded by maintenance. So I've noticed in the past year, one of the big issues is potholes. So the potholes that were here in our village last spring after, the winter, were never filled in, and they were not filled in this fall. And now we're still driving over those potholes, which have gotten bigger. So I'm concerned about the maintenance of our village and how you all think that that should be handled. And another issue that's also part of, I think, upkeep is all the trees that have been lost in the various storms over the last few years, most of them have not been replaced. And again, I'm trying to figure out why, and I'd like to know what your thoughts are on this matter and what you propose, keeping our village beautiful.
Well, Effie, this is Cosmo. I'll answer that. Again, this relates to infrastructure, Department of Public Works. You know, I wrote in the Garden City News that I've also seen this deterioration of the roadways in parts of the village. And I think right now, I believe it's a 20-year program or a 20-year life cycle for the roads to be repaired. What I would do is I would accelerate that program to see if we can increase the amount of road repairs. Because what happens is if you maintain the roads on a more regular basis with a protracted schedule, you will probably save money in the long run. Because as the roads get older and get more deteriorated, it costs you more money to repair those roads going down the road, going into the future. Again, regarding the trees, you know, unfortunately, we've had some terrible, terrible storms that we've never seen before. I mean, this could be due to global warming. We don't know what's happening really, but the storms are just unbelievable. And everybody complains about, you know, trees falling down. And again, my issue is that there should be an analysis done of all the trees that we have. If we can replant them, we would have to look at the species of trees. And I would look to let's say, a village arborist or a landscape architect like Celia Peterson, who's on the ADRB. There's a lot of information regarding trees, and she can help us on that. So I would reach out to the public and reach out to people that are really knowledgeable.
Does our village no longer have an arborist?
I'm not sure about that. You know, again, I think they did have one
Years ago.
several years ago. I contacted them several times regarding some trees on my block. So again, I think there is somebody in the village. I'm not sure if that person's still there.
Thank you.
Yeah. Can I add something along those lines, Terry?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, so one of the things that came up recently is the traffic lights around town and safety. And I'll give you a couple of examples. I live on Chestnut Street, 2 houses in from Washington. And on our corner, we've had numerous serious accidents with injuries. And it's never really been properly looked at, in my opinion. And I think these are some of the things we need to address: safety and traffic lights. So another example of that same traffic light, when you're going to the train station at Country Life Press, you only have time when it turns green and you're heading east on west on Chestnut Street. Only 2 cars can pass at a time. So what's happening is cars are speeding up to make the train, and it's a dangerous situation. And lastly, if you're crossing the street there, you better be an Olympic sprinter, because you hardly have any time to get across Washington Avenue, which is dangerous for children and mothers and fathers. And also you'll see a lot of people with their strollers. So I'm concerned about that. Another area is Franklin Avenue, the speeding that's going on between right around St. Joseph's, where Doubleday is, heading up towards 7th Street. So from Hempstead to 6th Street, there's a lot of speeding going on that is really a problem. On the corner of 6th and Franklin, where the post office is, Doubleday, and the Garden City Medical Center, you may have experienced, some of the people on this phone, but many times the traffic light will not change, or will take forever to change when you're on 6th Street heading either east or west. I've called the police department a number of times, sitting there while people are going through a red light around me just to get through the traffic light. So I think those are things we have to look at and see how we can streamline addressing them in the village.
I think you'd be hard pressed to find a single person on this call tonight who doesn't live in an area where there's speeding.
Yeah.
You know, where I live on the down the block on the corner of 3rd and Cathedral, they finally put in a light. Now that's all well and good for us here, but now the accidents have moved from 3rd Cathedral to 4th and Cathedral, and there's a couple accidents every single week.
Yeah.
Try crossing Rockaway Avenue. That's talking about taking your life in your hands. That's an everyday thing.
Yeah. Yeah, so the traffic slows down when you hit 6th, because there's a light at 6th, there's a light at 7th Street, and there's a light at Stewart Avenue, so they can't speed. But before that, they're accelerating at unbelievable amounts.
And that's all because of Waze too. Waze has directed people away from the lights.
That's probably, just to add to that, when you're talking about the speeding on Rockaway, it's unbelievable. I mean, during the height of the pandemic, it was like drag racing up and down. It's still that way on the weekends, and I'm walking on the track and I'll hear it. But particularly where Rockaway kind of meets Merlon, by the high school, you've got that huge stop sign. But there's so many times when people go through that and they're right in front of you. If you're heading west, going towards Maryland past the high school, I'd like to see something more than that big stop sign there.
All right, I think we need to go back to John. John's got a couple questions in the queue.
You did get a couple of people agreeing with you on that last point, Tom. Rhetorical questions about what it's going to take to actually fix some of these problems. Is it going to take a fatal accident around the high school before they actually address it? For question from Mike Ryder in the West, it's very apparent that the current and most recent Board of Trustees want to run the day-to-day village operations rather than the village administrator and department heads. Would you go back to the way it used to be and allow the highly compensated municipal professionals to do their job? Let's, I guess, start with Tom, who is a pretty good answer for that.
Yeah, I think that you have to let the people do their job, and I'm all for that, and I'm for transparency. So I want to know how things are going below their management, and I want them to bubble up to the Board of Trustees and the mayor, any issues that they have that we could be helpful with. So if they're in a management position, they have to have leadership skills, they have to be able to motivate, they have to be able to mentor. And they also have to be able to, if they have their own budgets, to monitor those budgets so that they don't have overspending. And they have to be great communicators. So I would make sure that we have stand-up meetings on a good cadence basis so that we know what's going on and we can address any issues, concerns, and also compliment them on work well done. So I'm sure they're in their positions because they're very competent, and I would do everything I can to support them and help them do their job.
Tom, this is Cosmo. My recommendation is really to reinforce the role of the village administrator. The village administrator is the key person. And what I would do is make sure that the Board of Trustees develops the policies that are needed for the village, and the village administrator has to implement those policies. Again, the village administrator is a paid employee of the village, and he has a major role in making sure everything runs smoothly in the village.
Right. And, Bob Shelley did such a great job for our town, and we could also pull in Bob Shelley to help us just improve. Not that we have to, make any changes, just he can add his expertise with his many years of great experience and all he brought to the table for the town.
As we've been moving forward in our campaign, I've had numerous conversations with the former mayor who said everything needs to be run like a business. This is a big business. It's a big budget. A lot of people getting paid a lot of money. Run it like a business.
I think this board needed to delegate a lot more, particularly to the village administrator. That's something we need to do. As Tom mentioned, Cosmo mentioned, Terry, and they're paid employees, and they need to get more involved in this. Just a little aside with the village administrator, when our landscaping at the end of our block was ripped out a year and a half ago at this point, I think, he came there and they were taking out trees that were on village property. And he said, well, these are on village property. Well, yeah, they were, and they should have been stopped, and they weren't. I remember that with him. So I think we definitely have to get them much more involved and delegate.
Okay. So Don asked this on Facebook, and I don't think that he knew that everybody could see his question. Why is that Winker Cosmo for bringing back the paid firefighters? But wait, because it was also asked very nicely by Joe DePrisco in the Estates. What is your reaction to the ad in the GC News citing your comments about considering bringing back some paid firefighters?
Is that directed to me, John?
That was with you, Cosmo, yes.
Okay, well, the ad obviously was very misleading. It was essentially fear-mongering, trying to say that I said something really out of context, which is not accurate at all. my representation was I was really discussing what had happened to the Alcott family on Hilton Avenue when their house almost burnt down, and the central fire station is 100 yards away. So well, that was my concern, and I think I'm responding to that very, very accurately now and before. So again, it was taken out of context, and then also to make a statement that the volunteer firemen would all quit. I don't understand that at all. I mean, the volunteer firemen serve a tremendous purpose in our village. They help us keep us safe. I don't think they're the kind of people that would just quit on us. So again, the statements are really misleading. It's about fear mongering. And then the other added thing was the 15% tax increase. I really would like to know how they developed that number, because I can't see how that can be calculated to be 15%. So again, it's a very misleading advertisement. It should never have been posted. And I think everybody deserves an apology from the people who put that ad in the paper.
And if I could add to that, you know, I have had many friends who were volunteer firemen. I have many friends who are volunteer firemen, and there's no threat of quitting.
Good.
That's bogus as far as the people I spoke to. So, you know, that's fear mongering, and it's not appropriate. We value the volunteers. In fact, I'll let you know that my wife's uncle represented the New York State Fire Department as a volunteer, as the captain of Levittown for many, many years, Thomas Cuff, very well known and respected across the state for the volunteer firemen and the fire departments. Also, her other uncle, Mr. Dalzell, was the captain of the fire department for many, many years in Garden City. So I totally support the fire department, and we always want safety. And I just thought I'd add that to the conversation.
I think the ad was totally disingenuous. You know, I can't believe they actually did that. We certainly support the volunteer fire departments. Long Island would be lost without volunteer fire departments and all the different communities. I grew up in Carl Place, and the volunteer fire department was really the center of the town. And they're very dedicated. They certainly wouldn't be a situation where they quit en masse. That was just outrageous to say that. So we will continue and support our volunteer fire department and back them up.
And I'd also like to say we appreciate their service.
Without a doubt.
Yeah, they put their lives at risk every day.
Right, just so it's, you know, I'll chime in also, we're 100% supportive of our volunteer fire department. And as far as the many issues we've brought up, it was an off-the-cuff comment by Cosmo. He's now made it clear he's not for bringing back any paid firefighters. And that's something we've discussed many, many issues within the village. Bringing back the paid force is not one that we ever discussed, because no one's thinking of doing that. I and everyone else, I think, is very aware of the issues we had with the joint force and the decision that was made, and how difficult and costly it was to implement the decision. And under no circumstances would I ever suggest going back to any mixed force with paid firefighters. And we are committed to our volunteers. And I also am sure they would not walk off the job. So, thank you, volunteers.
From Susan Kelly in the central section, please share the steps you will take to actually provide transparency to all residents of Garden City, not just a select few. Also, what input will you seek from the residents about their beliefs about the disposition of St. Paul's?
I guess maybe I'll start on the transparency. The open meetings law, you know, which you've seen us write a bit about. Under the open meetings law, all deliberations are to be done in public, and we're all committed to following the open meetings law and the spirit of that law. And what that means is, if we were discussing any business, you know, there are exceptions, but if we were discussing, for instance, the casino, as the present board has, that would be done at a public meeting, and you'd know what we were thinking, what ideas we had, any deliberations, they're required to be public. Similarly, the firehouse issue, which is what brought me here, any decision to hire, a consultant, you will be able to see it because we'll be deliberating at the meetings, and executive sessions will be limited to the specific exceptions, which are very limited for executive sessions. So basically, you'll know everything that's going on that we're deliberating. We will follow the open meetings law, and we are sure that hasn't been done over the last number of years.
I'll touch at St. Paul's real quick. This is a 30-year problem. They're going on and on and on. A lot of money thrown at it every single year. A couple of attempts at trying to correct the issue, but it's never happened. So really, and I feel strongly in this, there needs to be something put together with a community support group, whatever you want to call it, that will analyze, come together with factual numbers, and then it will be put to a referendum. I don't think you can hold us to a time. Is it 8 months, 9 months, 10 months, a year? I don't know what it is. That to me is the solution on that. And it has to be a vote. No one's going to be happy with it. Not everyone's going to be happy with it, but it has to be put to a vote where the taxpayers vote on it. And it's whether you have a use for it, where you can make something good out of it, or it has to come down. Those are, to me, are your two decisions. It comes down to dollars and cents and what the village residents want.
We definitely have to get a community group together and work with them on solutions for St. Paul's. We're not even sure what their annual expenditures are for it, but it's, as Terry just said, a 30-year problem that I heard about even before I came here. So that's something we have to put forward, and timeline will be difficult, but we'll have to do it within a reasonable amount of time.
Okay,
Did that cover it?
I think so. From Laura Fitzgerald, this is the second meeting that we've listened to. We appreciate your efforts and involvement. The message that we have heard is the lack of transparency and autocratic decision-making is a flaw in the current village government. Can you provide a list of tangible accomplishments that you will prioritize in the first year of your governance? St. Paul's Firehouse, Lord and Taylor, ideas to raise revenues to reduce village taxes, etc.
We all made up different answers on this.
Yeah, I was thinking last night when that post was made about, well, what are we going to do about these empty buildings? My son works at JP Morgan Chase, and initially they were going to actually demolish a building on Park Avenue and rebuild an entire new one. Now they're not. And I think that encouraging financial companies to maybe come here and have their headquarters here or whatever is something that we can maybe work on.
If I had to prioritize myself, and again, I speak for myself, not everybody else, I would put St. Paul's at the top. That's something to me that I feel very, very strongly about. We need to come up with a solution on that. We're looking for the next thing. I think going down the line of the Edgemere Firehouse, $10 million is an awful lot of money. We need to figure that out. And something that's near to me is I've spoken to a bunch of shop owners on 7th Street. They don't feel like their voice has been heard at all with the Chamber of Commerce and the like, and they would like to see a little better voice in that as well. And that's something I would like to try to prioritize.
Well, let me say also that in the Garden City News, I did make statements about all these issues, and it was part of the debate between myself and Mr. Bulbrook. So you can read that in the Garden City News. My position is there. It's very, very clear. So again, the major issues that are facing us right now, as Terry said, is you have St. Paul's, you have the Edgemere Firehouse, you have the water issue, you have the casino, we have a bunch of other, and the Monster Post, which is in litigation, which is another major issue. So yes, you have 5 major issues right off the bat that we have to tackle immediately. And that's why I'm saying that when we get into office, we have to attack these things, on the ground immediately. And within the next couple of weeks, when we get elected, we have to focus in on making sure we have committees set up, and we have people in the village that are going to help us get the proper solutions for the residents.
I couldn't say it any better, Cosmo.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I think all of the issues that have been, it's going to be a busy startup. We recognize that. And we're up to the challenge. All of these issues are going to require immediate action.
We're inheriting a lot, but we have the capabilities, the know-how, and the experience to really address everything. So I think you're looking at people who want to do the right thing, are going to do the right thing, be totally transparent, and bring back to our local government the way it used to be. And I think that everyone will benefit from that.
Okay, from Todd Gogler, forgive me if I've mispronounced that, Todd. What are some issues on which the candidates disagree internally?
I'll take that on first. Well, one of the things that, one of the reasons I agreed to run as a slate was all the people that are on the slate here tonight all agree on how to approach the issues, how to go about it, and they bring different levels of experience from different directions that they can apply to the issues. So that was one of the things that I loved about the slate. There's great synergy, great leadership, great smart people who are compassionate for the town, and all just want to do the right thing for the town and the people living in this town. Grandparents, parents, families, children, you name it. And also all the community activities, sports, and so on. We bring a lot to the table, and we're passionate about being focused on the people of this town and what's good for the town.
I would say one of the biggest things we disagree on are these lime green hoodies we all got.
Agreed.
You don't like the lime green?
I think that the issues that brought us together, we are largely unified on. I think there's some discussion that do we agree on everything? You will see with our transparent government, I'm sure there'll come a day, that we would disagree on something and you will know it. But I would echo what Tom said. It's, I'm really proud to be part of this group, and what we're doing is really, bringing to Garden City what we think Garden City deserves, the residents. And we've been, I'd have to say, unified on most all topics so far.
Well, Mary, I would like to add, the reason why we probably don't disagree is because we're all for the right things. We want to make the right moves, do the right things, try to keep spending down, and do all the right things. So it's hard to disagree on that. We might disagree on how we want to attack St. Paul's or the firehouse, things like that. But the bottom line is we're all for the right things.
These are the issues that brought us together. And I'm really proud to run with the slate that we have. They're all fine people. They've all been active in the community. And we all agree we need to tackle these issues. And there's some slight disagreement in how deep we go into it. But I think we're going to work very, very well to take care of the big problems that are now facing this village.
That's very well said, Bruce. And again, what I'm looking at is we have a diverse group of people. We've come together on the issues, and I couldn't feel more excited about our group because the main thing for us is that we want to do what's right for the village. It's that simple. Just do the right thing.
I think the other thing is we're open to ideas. So, even if you may disagree with us, that's fine. We're going to take that idea, and maybe your idea is the right idea. So we're open-minded, and we're going to be good listeners. I think that's another thing that we bring to the table. Listen to the residents, understand their feelings, acknowledge their feelings, and try to make the right decisions for the town and for the people.
I guess just one last thing to add to that. If people are surprised that we don't disagree with anything on the platform, I'd point out that the other side that's running against us really hasn't disagreed with anything on our platform either. It's not a very controversial platform we're bringing to you.
Right.
So.
No, it's not. They are only, is that they're the community agreement party.
And I think the other thing is that there'll be no surprises. So for example, if there's a gas line coming down your block, you're not going to find out when at the last minute. It'll be something that'll be discussed and worked out ahead of time. So I think there'll be no surprises. I think one of the things that I think a lot of residents have been concerned about is things are happening before they have any input. We'll make sure you have the input before there's any decisions made.
And won't have the poll fiasco like we had, that no one knew what was happening. And all of a sudden these polls are going up. There was no correspondence, no transparency. And as I said, my group was on top of that and we still didn't get it.
We have another question.
Yep, we do. It's a hard habit to drop, isn't it, Mary? It's supposed to be
That's right.
Terry tonight. Are the candidates going to bring transparency to how the village budget is being spent? Sorry, that's from Ennis on Facebook.
Absolutely.
I would say by law, I think we have to, right?
There's no reason why we wouldn't do that. Of course we do that.
Yeah. We'd have to make it.
I think and it's not clear, so I'll add my own commentary. I think kind of buried in that question is things like how you're choosing vendors and contractors, and that kind of like talk about how you'll be transparent in that way.
Well,
That wasn't explicitly asked, but I'll editorialize a little bit.
Well, John, as we've been saying all along, we want competitive bidding of all these contracts. We don't care if you're buying garbage pails or you're buying legal services. We need to have the vetting of all these issues and transparency in the bidding process. So there'll be RFPs, there'll be competitive bidding, and we'll get the best price for the village.
Well said. Well said, Cosmo. That's exactly what we need to do. Okay. That's our obligation, I feel, as village trustees, to do that for the residents.
So in the RFP price process, in addition to pricing, you have to look at value, experience, and how successful they've been in previous work, and if they've been there and done that. And then you have to check the references, and you have to speak live to these references to make sure that what they're representing is actually true. So you're looking for the best price with the best value when you make a decision on behalf of the town.
Well, another thing to do is to add like a citizens review board as well. So again, if someone's going to review contracts outside of us, there's another set of eyes to look at it to make sure you don't have, first of all, you don't have a no bid contract. You're getting the right price for the right services, and it's another check to the system.
That's right. And I totally agree with that, Terry.
Well, listen, we want to make sure the village administrator does his job, right? So he has a big burden.
Yeah, and if it's something beyond our expertise, we're not embarrassed or ashamed or too proud to bring in expertise from people in the town who can make a good evaluation of those vendors that are bidding on a job.
That's a great point, Tom. That's exactly what we should be doing.
Okay. Also from Ennis on Facebook, why do the candidates feel that the existing trustees are now resorting to such ads, I guess referring to our 15% tax hike, regarding the paid fire department?
They finally have competition. It's not the normal election where they need to get 200, 300 votes and that's it. We're calling them out on issues that they have not handled well. And so they're resorting to these type of tactics, which I think in the long run is certainly going to hurt them.
Yeah, I think you'd have to ask them why, but I would point out that for those who care about the community agreement, this is exactly what the community agreement was trying to avoid, the type of ad we saw last week. I'll leave it at that.
I think one thing that has to be said whenever there's an election, and I know I speak because I've had this discussion with everybody on this slate, stick to the issues. Don't ever attack the person. These people we value their input, even if you disagree with them. So always treat others the way you want to be treated. And we're going to make sure that we do that on this whole process, the election process. Always take the high road.
I agree, Tom.
Okay. From Elizabeth Mudgett, again, forgive me if I'm mispronouncing that, Elizabeth. I'm concerned with our water. I know it's complicated, but what are your thoughts on the dirty water situation?
Upon election, we'll obviously, if we're elected, be very involved in that. And, from everything I've reviewed, the village has moved on getting the filtration in place. I think the water is something that is, of huge concern to everyone. And while expensive, it's an essential that we have clean water for the village.
One of the numbers I think is around $50 million, which is just, it needs to be done. Water is an essential item, needs to be taken care of. It's a process of how we do it, and it needs to be implemented.
Other water, I was going to say other water districts have been doing that, the Carl Place Water District, Westbury Water District. So these are things that have to be done. And as Terry just said, a $50 million expenditure, but it's obviously essential for the health of our residents.
Yeah,
And
you
I
look
think
at it. Yeah, sorry.
You're up, Tom.
I was just going to say that, the unfortunate situation in Michigan, which is far beyond our problem, you can see the damage that it did as far as, damaging young children and so on because the water was undrinkable.
I think also, we recognize that this is the system's being put in place, but this is an ongoing, water will always, be an issue going forward. So I think keeping residents informed and being transparent on that is also essential.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep. From George Juiced on Facebook, what is Don McLeod's role within your organization? Is he authorized to make statements on FABGC's behalf?
All right. So we addressed this last time, but George, I don't think you were here. We did talk a bit about Don, and I know you had posed that question also on Facebook to me. And Don is the person who brought us all together, who brought together, groups of different people who had similar concerns. And I am tremendously grateful that Don did that, because I don't think we'd all be sitting here today if he hadn't. Don is also, a great defender, often on Facebook, and I appreciate that as well. As far as, we're for transparency, I'm not sure if there's something specific that you're mentioning that Don said that you're asking if he was, if we agree with, you can say that Don is not a candidate. So if you have a specific issue and Don said something on that issue, we're here to answer your questions directly, George, if you have any. And I don't know if anyone else wanted to say anything else on Don's role.
Well, in support of Don, Don has done a heroic job to get us all together and really have us focus on all the issues. He's a lifelong resident of the village. He has the heart of the village, at stake here. We want to make sure that we do everything possible to make sure these issues are discussed. And Don has given us a platform to do that. He's helped us get together. As you said, Mary, he runs interference for us every now and then. But again, he's our spokesperson for now. And we have our own views, but Don has been instrumental in getting this group together.
Exactly. I mean, the frustrations that we had with the polls and revamp resident voters against the monster polls. And Don reached out to me, realizing what we were going through. And he brought us together to concentrate, to focus on these issues. And of course, his passion, being a lifelong resident of this village, is pretty apparent. So I don't think we would have had this, obviously, without Don. And thank God we do, because it's so much needed for this village.
So I'll add to that. Don is certainly very passionate and wants to do the right things by the village. And just to be very clear, we're our own people, we're our own slate here. So total transparency, we're representing ourselves on these issues, and representing ourselves on our candidacy with support from Don and others in FABGC. But I think we're being very open, answering all these questions, having these Zoom meetings so that you know who we are, what we represent, and what we're going to do when we're elected.
And I guess if George is still on the line, if you have a question, obviously we'll be serving and would be making the decisions, and you may have a question directly for us, and we're happy you have a specific question to field it tonight.
I would just echo the same thing. Don's passion is unquestioned, but the biggest thing I want to relay to everybody is we're 5 independent thinkers, and we're not answering to anybody other than the people that voiced their opinions and objections to us.
Okay, from Lynn K. Question on the Denton Avenue Bridge. I read that the village does not want to expand this to 2 lanes. What does FABGC think? Maybe Bruce, who's in that section?
No, John, I
Okay.
wrote something. Bill Belmer, he's the village historian, wrote a really good article in the Garden City News about this. And I replied and I said, you know, it's something we should try to restore if we can. It's almost reminiscent of the monster pole issue, right? We don't know all the facts. We don't know what's really going on, but the village historian has made a comment about it, and I think we should respect that comment and follow up. You know, again, Tanner's Pond, that whole area is being transformed, and we want to make sure that it's done properly. We want to make sure it doesn't look like, you know, some sort of utilitarian, mundane structure, and respects the historic integrity of the village.
Yeah, I certainly would agree with that. And I think there's a concern with the Tanner's Pond residents and the residents right around there. Widening it and taking down the bridge completely would increase the traffic. So I think keeping the bridge with the structure that it is, or as close to it as they can,
Right.
Would be the right solution.
I think actually that question, and I'm not sure if I was, if the questioner was a supporter of making it 2 lanes. I thought they may be. I have not heard any support for making it a 2-way road from residents. I'm not in that area, but I'm off Edgemere. And I think a very valid concern, I think as trustees would be looking out for the interests of the residents. And that neighborhood would, I think, be seriously impacted if that were made 2 lanes, because that would become a major thoroughfare, which it is not now.
Correct.
So I think that's why it's not being made 2 lanes. And I think that's important for that neighborhood to keep it from being overrun by traffic.
John, you got more?
I do. From iPhone, so call it anonymous. Ask how they feel about committees with residents on them.
I'd be all for it. I think
Yes.
that's something that should happen. We should have more community involvement. I think and regardless of the committee, be a parks committee, pool committee, whatever, you come up with these different committees, we need as many residents involved as possible.
Without a doubt, we definitely need committees. If we'd had a full 3rd track committee, not with 2 existing trustees, village superintendent, resident should have been on that committee. Residents that were going to be affected by the 3rd track, they should have been on the committee. So committees are definitely very important going forward.
Yeah, that's part of our platform. So again, it's not something new to us. We want to bring back the resident committees. We want to get people involved, and that's a way of doing it.
Right. That's why the word community.
Right.
All right. A follow-up from George Juiced on Facebook. He was asking specifically about deceitful ads. For example, is there evidence that a McDonald's was set to replace the casino?
All right, so I don't know how many people on our call have seen that ad. And I support the ad. I think the casino, what's been done to the community, the way the board has secretly been discussing the casino for years, and not letting anyone in the community know what those discussions are, is it's outrageous. And to put a McDonald's, you know, it's obviously not literal. We don't really think there's going to be a McDonald's there, but the point is we don't know what's going to be there and we should know. So I think the reason to put the golden arches there is to catch your eye and to make you think, do I know? And why don't I know? So I thought that was quite a good ad myself.
Yeah, if I could put the ad aside a minute, I wanted everybody to know that I looked at the deed, and the deed goes back, I don't know, maybe 125 years, and it's deeded for recreational use for the village, nothing else. Yet, I'm hearing from the people who belong to the casino that they're hearing that it might be put up for sale or leased, and they're trying to get a long-term lease.
And that's the point.
The casino has served our community for so long. It means so much to the village. They pay all their own expenses, and they provide a terrific service for a lot of community activities that we've all participated in, from weddings to award dinners to fundraisers for hospitals, etc. So I just wanted to make that point, how it's deeded, so that everybody knows that it's deeded for recreational use for our village.
And the casino is still up in the air. I mean, their contract has not been extended for any really long length of period of time, early next year. And that's just not right.
Yeah.
If I could just make one comment on that ad, I consider it very similar to the ad where we have a glass dome over St. Paul's to show different things that could be done. That's what the McDonald's is. The only difference between the glass dome over St. Paul's is the BOT paid $125,000 for this, and we were able to do this for about 6 cents. So I'm very surprised somebody took that literally, but it does show we have no idea what the BOT is planning. Maybe they were planning a Burger King. I don't know, but that was the concept there. And I think in all fairness, everybody realizes that.
I think so too. And at any point, if the BOT was concerned that people were misled, they could have come out and told us what they've been talking about for the last 5 years. What
I
happened?
think a big point needs to be reiterated is the casino is no different from a pool. Anybody could join it. And as Tom will tell you, we've had multiple class reunions, Garden City High School class reunions there. We've had Garden City lacrosse nights there. I've been to multiple things there, and it's a part of the community, deserves to be part of the community, and it shouldn't change.
Does the casino share revenue with the village for private functions, or is that used for court maintenance?
So none of the actually candidates are members of the casino. So obviously not on the board at the casino. But the casino, as far as the revenue, it's my understanding that they have not for a couple of years had a caterer. They did have a caterer there. I was a member for a number of years. And the building, the question's a little confusing because it suggests that any revenue from the caterers would go to the courts. I think it's probably the other way around. I think the tennis is subsidizing the maintenance, probably of the building and the insurance. So at this point, though, the question, there isn't catering going on, I don't believe. Is someone on from the casino who wants to clarify on that?
Yeah, give me one second.
There's no catering.
I'm pretty sure that the court revenue subsidizes the building is what someone has said to me.
No.
Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, I'll take that question as a casino board member.
Good.
The village does not put a dime into the casino. Everything that's the casino has is supposed to paying bills, upkeep, et cetera, et cetera. What was the more specific question? I'm sorry if there was anything a little more
I think
specific.
the
on that.
question was whether the catering pays for the courts, but there isn't catering. So I don't know how, I think the person who asked the question was mistaken that there was still catering. But when
Well,
there was catering, I guess, Mike, in the past, when there were more events there.
No, there is no direct catering. The facility is available for rent for parties. Now, obviously not now with the COVID. Once it breaks again, we'll go back to doing that. But all revenue goes into our budget, and the budget is there to pay for the roof, for the air conditioning, the court maintenance, heat, electric, gas, snow removal, gardening, all the expenses.
And you guys do a beautiful job. It's a great facility.
I think Monica Kiley wants to jump in on this. I think you have to unmute her, John.
Yeah, I do.
She's still muted.
How about now?
We hear you.
Okay, so Mike Ryder, we need to tell the people on the call that similar to the pool, the residents that join the casino pay dues for the season, and we also commit to spend a minimum amount of money at the casino. So, you know, that's the dues are about $1,000 a family, and then you commit to spend, what's the right figure, $300 or $400 over and above that?
That's about right, yeah.
Okay, so if we're at full capacity of 200 families, that's $200,000. And it's my understanding that that dwarfs any revenues that we get from the building, and that the tennis dues actually subsidize the building, not the reverse. I'd have to go over our financials. You know, the board of trustees has recently asked for them. It's upsetting that, you know, we've been trying to talk to them for a long time and they only recently asked for our financials, but the board has that information.
Is it also from George Juice? Is it possible to separate the courts from the building?
I don't, if you can specify what you mean by separate. The whole area is supposed to be for the deed is for recreational use. So I do think it would be an issue if he's proposing leasing out. Is he talking about like leasing out the building for some other use? I don't know.
The unfortunate
the
thing
McDonald's.
is Facebook. The unfortunate thing is Facebook is a few minutes behind
Okay.
the live feed. And so you kind of answer a question or ask for clarification, and then
Okay, so sorry,
45
George.
seconds later, George kind of clarifies on Facebook, or somebody does. A comment from George Juiced: why is Don responding for questions to candidates? I think this was right after your commentary about the McDonald's.
Because I was the one that created that ad, so I think it's pretty self-explanatory. But thank you, George, for your concern.
We have Monica and Mike also commenting. We don't limit the comments here to the candidates. So, and
Well, it
John.
made sense as Mike and Monica are members, and it made sense since they had the information, and, you know, from what we've been told, the casino operates as not for profit anyhow, right?
Correct.
That's right.
From Elizabeth Mudge, also about the casino, I heard the kitchen was atrocious. If you keep it, will it be brought up to par?
All right, so the casino, as far as that would be part of the negotiations with the casino on what is hopefully a long-term lease that's already being negotiated. If not, then we would look to negotiate a long-term lease. And that type of detail is something that would be part of those negotiations. It's dated, the kitchen is dated.
The kitchen is a fully workable kitchen. The village recently toured it. We've had professional chefs in there. It's up to all Board of Health standards. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that kitchen. It may look a little dated. It's a commercial kitchen. And by and large, we don't use the kitchen absent a walk-in freezer and to do some reheating at this particular juncture.
Mike, two of the trustees actually toured the kitchen facilities, right? To see that?
They did. And it's, like I said, the mayor was there some time ago. I was with the mayor back in, may have been October, November. I'm sorry, I don't have it in front of me. The kitchen is a workable kitchen. Like I said, I don't know who asked that question, and I don't know where they got that information from. And they should
I haven't
stay.
been in the kitchen, but I've been told by members that they think the kitchen is better than a lot of kitchens in New York City.
Again, I'm not sure, John, maybe you could ask who asked that question and where are they getting that information from?
It's on Facebook, so we'll again kind of have the weird
All right, no
delay
problem.
where
Thank-
45 seconds from now, they'll maybe clarify.
Yeah. I mean,
Thank
I
you.
think it's been answered though.
it goes back to the transparency issue. If people have questions about the casino or ideas on the casino, which it sounds like George Juice might have, this should all be done publicly. Like none of us, unless George Juice knows more than me, we don't know what the Board of Trustees is thinking of or planning for the casino.
Okay, so the final question will come from John Cantwell. When and where is the election? And how can I find out more about how to vote?
That's an outstanding question, John. Why don't we let our mayoral candidate answer that?
Well, the election is on March 16th, right?
Yep, Village
From-
Hall,
From
9.
12
12 to
12 noon to 9 o'clock, I believe.
As far as the voting, there is absentee ballot. COVID is, and concern over COVID is a reason that you can use to get an absentee ballot. You can request your absentee ballot today. They will be available certainly by March 10th, if not sooner. And we have more instructions on our website. You can reach out to us and you will be able to, there is a short window for the absentee ballot. If it's not available till the 10th, it has to be received back on March 16th. So you can deliver it on March 16th or earlier to Village Hall. And we're also here to help if anyone here needs help, just stay tuned with our website so that we can help you in any way to make sure you get your ballot in.
That window is March 10th, you said, Mary, when the.
We don't know exactly when. It could be sooner. By March 10th, the ballots must be prepared. So they will be available as of March 10th. They may be available sooner. And I was just cautioning people that if they're not available to March 10th or mailed out to your home on March 10th, it'll be a very small window. And we can help with getting it back in if you don't have time to mail it. You probably wouldn't have time to mail it back in if it's mailed to you. You can also pick it up at Village Hall once they're available. So when you do that application, you can note someone will pick it up for you rather than the mailing if you'd like. Anything, Effie, you want to add on the voting?
Hopefully they have they have 2 voting machines and they would be nice if they expanded the hours, but
We
I
have
don't
what
think
we
that's
have.
gonna happen. Yeah.
Well, also, I think one issue is parking. There's no parking there. So I think the thought of all of us is that, the lot across the street behind the stores is the most appropriate parking. And I think it was you, Mary, that suggested that they have a crossing guard so that nobody gets hurt crossing the street.
Yeah, hopefully they'll do that. We'll recommend.
The other thing is I just can't understand why we're not using St. Paul's, which is more open space and safer with the COVID-19 at this time. Village Hall is very tiny and small.
Right.
I don't get it.
Yeah, Fluid Hall would be great.
Well,
That'll do it, Terry.
Perfect. Well,
Just
everyone,
remember
I
to
thank you
vote.
for joining. And we would look forward to seeing you next Wednesday.
Or weekly
Thank
Zoom
you.
meeting.
Thank you, Terry.
Thank you, Terry.
thanks,
you.
Terry. Good night,
Terry.
everyone.
Guys.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you, John.
Yes, John, thank you.
Thanks, John.
Thank you,
Thank
John.
you. Thanks, John.
Bye-bye.